Hello, folks. This is Matt Marafino. I am your instructor for literature, and I want to talk to you just for a little bit about the use of AI, artificial intelligence, or anything like that uh, in working towards this class, when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, and the general guidelines like I have here. So this is a handout that you can find in Brightspace that talks about when you might want to use it. And I just want to talk about just setting some ground rules. And I know every semester when I do this, AI becomes more and more prominent, a little easier for students to use. But I want to give you some helpful guidelines and why instructors take certain stands on this issue. So first off, let's talk about what we mean by AI. Okay, so we're talking about AI assistive tools. Those are tools that offer suggestions to original student created content. Okay, so there are things that students that some of us have been using for several decades that do assist in our writing. So if you are on using a Microsoft Word program and it auto corrects some of your spelling, okay, or if it even makes suggestions to some of your grammar, we use those. But it's the important point is a good if it's something like Grammarly, a student is supposed to be looking at the suggestions and then making corrections using their own critical thinking skills to do so. Excuse me. But what a lot of students have found, especially in the last year or two, since ChatGPT and other tools like that have become very widespread, is students using AI generative tools. Those are tools that create content as prompted. So I'm sure most of us have explored this in some way. We go online, we go on ChatGPT or something like that, and we say, write me a 5-page essay or write me a 3-paragraph essay or whatever it is, and it spits out something. Okay, so let me just first explain. I've caught students in the last couple of years using it for introduction to literature classes. Okay, and a lot of times what AI or ChatGPT tools will use is it'll create very bland explanations of works. It'll do some kind of interpretation or analysis, but it's not really doing the work. It's just kind of looking at whatever other people have said and kind of synthesizing some kind of very generalized, bland content. Okay. There's also one giveaway when students use ChatGPT. Because of the nature of ChatGPT, sometimes it hallucinates or makes up ideas or quotes in particular that it think might work well for this work. Okay, especially if it can't find that work too easily. Okay, so I've caught numerous students over the last couple semesters. They'll be writing about a piece of literature for this very class, and they will put in a quote from the actual work, but the quote does not exist. Okay, it's actually not in any form of the work, and that to me is a dead giveaway. Okay, so let me first explain before we go into some of the details, and I don't want to make this too long of an essay or a video. Okay, the point of this class is to help you create some critical thinking and reading skills so that when you encounter a piece of literature, you are able to understand what is that original author's intent. Okay, literature, and most of us are never going to be having a job where our job is to analyze literature. Okay, but the point of something like a poem or a short story or a play or a novel is somebody is, in some way is trying to say, I need to tell you about something about the human condition. And I think the way for you to understand it is by reading this creative work of art. Okay, so the point of this whole class, and I know a lot of students are taking this class because it's a requirement, it's maybe a humanities requirement to get to your degree. The point of the class is more than just getting through it. The point of the class is to help you understand what it is to be human, to be honest. And so when we use AI to ask it to write a work or an analysis or a journal about the work, we're kind of cheating ourselves of what the opportunity of the class offers. Okay, so first off, I would say don't do it. Okay, you're kind of cheating yourself out of your education. And if some people say, well, I need to get a good grade in this so I can move on to the next class, or I can get into, that program or whatever. Well, I think in the long run, it's going to hurt us, and what it hurts you, but also will hurt us as a human race, because we're no longer treasuring those things that make us human. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so let's kind of really quickly, rather than belabor the point, here is the guidelines. Okay, so I'm not going to say you cannot use AI to help explore some ideas about literary devices or themes or interpretations of a work. Okay, but if you're going to be using any kind of AI generative tools in specifically like your journals or even on your discussion boards, um, I would like you to let me know that, by properly citing that you used something. So if you said, if you actually went online and you asked ChatGPT, I'm thinking about the poem we're going to read, I think in the second week, Ex-Basketball Player by John Updike, and you're like, what's going on in there? And I mean, you can find it in a lot of different ways online, but let's suppose you go to ChatGPT, because that's the first place for a lot of people, and you get some kind of analysis, and you're like, well, it's kind of interesting. What I would say the first thing to do is check it with your own rational, logical ideas about what makes sense. Read the actual poem, okay? And if you say, well, ChatGPT made some interesting points, because sometimes it does. It synthesizes all the information that is out there and sometimes distills it for us in a useful way. Make sure you cite it, okay? So what is not acceptable is using any kind of generative content without checking it against more traditional or authoritative sources, or copying and pasting it, okay? Or using, in paraphrasing or quoting or summarizing, like we have here on the right-hand side, anything from ChatGPT about a work, analyzing it, without, first off, checking with me, okay, and giving proper citation, okay? Sometimes we move down the line here. If someone wants to talk about some biographical information about the author, okay, there's a lot of places to find that. You can use something like Wikipedia, or a lot of the authors we're going to talk about. They probably have a page that somebody, maybe a fan of theirs, has created that has good content about that, and you want to kind of read more about what this author was doing or thinking or their background. That's fine. If you want to use AI to maybe explore a little bit, that's okay. But once again, you need to check that what AI is telling you, it seems to be more like in line with what traditional or authoritative content says. Okay, and of course, copying and pasting what AI says, without my approval and without proper documentation or citation is also wrong. Okay. Also, using AI assistive tools to assess and revise your writing. Okay, that's fine. Okay, but when we talk about click and replace, I think most of you know what that means. That means just automatically clicking whatever AI, whatever Grammarly or Microsoft Word says, it must be right. You have to make sure that what you are replacing your original content with makes sense. You want to be exercising your critical thinking skills. Okay, you also want to make sure that your writing style and the insights you're making are yours. Okay, that's a key thing. And to be honest, as this goes on, as AI becomes more and more advanced, it's going to be more of a challenge for all of us, writers, thinkers, teachers, and students. Okay, so those are some ideas to think about. And I'm going to get my cursor over here. All right, so those are some ideas to keep in mind. I think the main thing to keep in mind is, I know these works really well. Okay, I'll be honest. I can tell when someone has actually encountered, read, thought about the works, as opposed to using some kind of very bland, generalized, often AI created content. Okay, I will confront you online if I see it seems like someone's using AI. You're submitting things through Packback, your discussion boards and your journals, and it actually has an AI detector in it. It's using AI to detect AI. So if it says there's a high likelihood, and it shows you that a high likelihood of AI generated content, I would think twice before you submit it, because I will talk to you about this online. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.